Guys, this is going to be a great episode with Dave Loescher of GoHunt.com. And I'm excited to share this episode with you because Dave's going to talk a lot about the Filtering 2.0 system. With the draw season, the application season coming up, I know researching and trying to figure out what units and what states and what animals, getting the best statistics and Filtering 2.0, they're about to come out with probably the best draw odds system that's ever been seen. Just some really cool stuff going on at GoHunt.com Insider. I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. I want to thank you for all the emails that I get, all the comments, and all the positive feedback. I really appreciate you guys taking your time here to listen. And one thing I would ask you is the best thing you can do for me and this podcast is tell your friends and share this with your friends. And I just appreciate all the support. Guys, I want to thank my two sponsors, GoHunt.com Insider. If you haven't signed up for GoHunt Insider, click on the blue Join Now button. Use the JScott promo code and you'll get a $50 KUIU gift card. I want to thank them. They've been my sponsor from the beginning on this podcast. Also, DeadeyeOutfitters.com. They make hunting t-shirts, hats, and hoodies, and they have just they're hunters that make hunting clothing. So they have hunters in mind when they're making this stuff, and I get a lot of feedback from listeners that go on their site and order stuff and like what they see. And if you use the JScott promo code, you automatically get a 10% discount on all the stuff at DeadeyeOutfitters.com. They're actually doing a holiday special, and you get 25% off on all merchandise. So use the JScott promo code, and I want to thank them for their sponsorship, and they've got a bunch of great stuff coming out here in 2016. So guys, let's get right to the episode with Dave Loescher. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we've got a really cool episode with friend Dave Loescher of GoHunt.com. Dave has had many roles over at GoHunt.com, one of which is content creator, and he's in charge of brand partnerships over there and has had his finger on the GoHunt Insider and built that from the ground up. And I'm excited to talk to Dave. Dave is a very avid hunter, and I've known him for some time. Dave, it's great to have you on the podcast. How are you?
Good, Jay. Thanks for having me here today. I'm excited to be here and get a chance to talk a little bit.
Yeah, I know both of us have had very, very busy falls, and I know that you actually had some fantastic tags this year going into the fall, and you had some great hunts with your brother Pat, whom is your hunting partner, and I've known Pat. Pat's one of those guys that not a lot of people know about, but he's probably one of the biggest silent killers, as some would say, as anybody out there. In that, I mean, he just stacks stuff up left and right, but really, you never really hear about him.
Yeah, no kidding. He's somebody I've always looked up to. Obviously, I mean, he's my big brother, and we grew up hunting together. And he's got that, I guess you can say it, like a sixth sense or an X factor about him. He just has a knack for figuring things out. Finding the big stuff and actually just getting them killed. I really admire him. I've learned a lot from him, and we certainly make big sacrifices with each other. And I think that sacrifice is unique in a sense that our relationship allows us to, he draws a tag, a big tag, or I do, and we make a sacrifice for each other. I will kind of put my stuff on hold, make sure I'm there with him, because as you know, Jay, when you have a partner out there hunting with you and you have somebody that's helping you, whether it's on the glass or what it may be, it just helps to boost your morale and your spirits. And two guys can find about 3 times the amount of game as one guy, so it's just unproven.
For sure. It's, a lot of people ask me how Dara and I are so successful, and I in our own hunting and in our guiding, I think one of the things, and you can weigh in on this, it's when you're hunting with someone that's just as committed, whether it's their tag or your tag, and you know that they are giving 110%. And as a matter of fact, they push you because you're thinking, I'm over here on this ridge, Dar's over there on that ridge, or in your case, Pat's over on that ridge. I got to go. I got to find bucks because I know he's over there pushing every bit as hard. I think, I would wish everybody out there could get a hunting partner that can push them and push their own limits. But it's nice to have a hunting partner too that's every bit as excited about your success as his success. And, I think that's hard to come by a lot of times in today's, day and age. It's, everybody's got their own schedules and everybody's got their own responsibilities. And it just doesn't seem like very many teams can put in dual effort. And, I think that's huge in having a hunting partner where that, his time's valuable, your time's valuable, but you've both committed to however long the hunt is, and that, you need to do your part to not let him down, and he's going to do his part to not let you down.
And I think you just described it perfectly. I mean, in addition to what you just said about, he's over there and I've got to do my part and really try to produce. I mean, what we do also, just boosting one another's morale. It's easy to get down, let's face it, whether it's a missed shot opportunity, whether it's a blown stock, whether it's just, maybe you just didn't do a great job of glassing or whatever it is, and you just feel like, you had an off day or an off morning. It's easy to get down, and you need that other guy just to kind of, I don't know if it's punch you in the shoulder or smack you upside the head, whatever it may be, just to kind of bring you around and let you know that, tomorrow's a new day or this afternoon, and you got to get each other, keep each other producing. And he does that for me. He really brings out the best in me, and he's so committed. And man, I just tell you what, I feel so fortunate and blessed to have him as a committed partner. It's just been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you guys just got off of a deer hunt, and Pat was able to harvest a phenomenal deer. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is kind of a unique opportunity. It was out on the eastern side of Colorado. It was an opportunity to harvest whitetail deer. It was one of those tags that's an archery tag where he could pursue either species. And in this thing, he had a benchmark. He wanted either a 190 plus mule deer. Pat's been fortunate to have harvested a lot of big animals with his bow. Or he wanted a whitetail that would exceed, that 165 mark. Fortunately, we were able to locate a whitetail, and it's a spot and stock situation. It's not one of your, you think of bow hunting whitetails, and we all sit and think about it, and we're thinking maybe hardwood bottoms or whatever it is, sitting in a tree stand and just waiting, and that's a fun way to do it. But this way is a little bit different. We're spot and stock, and you're sitting behind tripod-mounted optics and really pouring in the time. Well, one day we were together, we found this big buck that was, he had a hot doe with him, and he was trying to keep her away from another buck, and it was one of those things when you first see an animal for the first time that you just know is giant, and you know what I mean by this. I mean, it just stood out. His beams were super long, everything about him. His body was just a tank, and Pat made up his mind right there. That's what he wanted. That's what he wanted to go after, and it was one of those situations where he found him one morning. And later on in the hunt, found him, and the buck actually was with the doe, went over the hill and kind of pinned her down like they do when the does are hot. Not a lick of cover, I mean, nothing. All he had was grass about maybe waist high, not even waist high, probably knee high. And Pat just had to slither in on him. I mean, no assistance from a radio or anything along those lines. It was just mono a mono, and Pat went in and got into 42 yards. The buck actually had to stand up to reposition because the doe wanted to move, and he had to pin her back down type of thing. The buck stood up 42 yards away, and he put it right where it needed to be. I'll tell you, the buck ended up being giant. The main beams on that whitetail are just under 30 inches, 29 7/8 on the main beams. The buck ends up grossing over 183. It's just a buck of several lifetimes. And to do it the hard way with a bow, that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. That's awesome. That's cool that you guys were able to enjoy that experience together. And Dave, I know you had some tags this year in the fall, and I know talking to you in the summer on the phone, your expectations were very, very high. Walk me through how your fall went and how those opportunities went and maybe what you learned from them.
Yeah, no problem at all. As you know, Jay, you and I have known each other from back when I did live in Arizona, and I was an Arizona resident. Fortunately, prior to leaving, I got a lifetime license, so I still get to have the privileges of being able to pick up an Arizona tag, maybe more so than other non-residents. But what I did this year, first tag I drew was an Arizona archery bull tag, and I was pretty excited. It's a unit that we'd known well. It was Unit 10 of Arizona. Pat and I spent a lot of time out there, whether it be on our own adventures or maybe helping other family members, friends, or I've done some guiding in the unit as well. So I was excited about that. And then after that, the next tag I found out I was expecting in Nevada, as I applied for Nevada, all the species, and most points I had were for deer, and I put in for some relatively easy archery deer opportunities or units over there. And when the draw results came out and I saw my name under successful, and it said, in Nevada they say longbow for archery, and I saw longbow sitting there, and I thought that's got to be one of those deer tags. And I looked closer. I was blown away to know that I was one of the 2 non-residents that drew an archery elk tag in Nevada. So in this particular unit, which is a good unit for producing big bulls, it's not far from home here where I live in the southern part of Utah. So anyway, I had 2 great elk tags under my belt, and I thought this is a year to remember. And then I also had a local general archery deer tag here in Utah, and poured in a lot of time scouting, trying to locate a few bucks, and lo and behold, we had a phenomenal moisture year, as you know, across the West, and just in most places, and this was no exception here locally, and found some great bucks that just got me so excited. And then all of a sudden I went from, it's kind of one of those when it rains it pours types of situations, because here I have 2 great elk tags that are early season. They're going to take place in tail end of August into September, and then I've got this deer tag with these just awesome bucks found and patterned, and I've got to figure out how to pull them all off. And it was just one of those times where I thought for sure I was going to be able to produce 3 giant animals. I thought there's no way I can go wrong. And then after all the dust settled, it was just one of those times, kind of a wake-up call of sorts. And I made a few mistakes, a few errors, kind of planned time incorrectly. I should have focused on one of the tags more so than another one at a different time. And I just, even with the amount of time and experience I have in hunting and stuff, I still just fell short. And after all the dust settled, I came up empty-handed. It just blows me away, because I thought this would never be the year for that. But hey, we live and learn and we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's part of it. I think, sometimes there's those years when you've really got nothing going on, and all of a sudden you produce a giant animal and it came out of nowhere. And then sometimes you've got what you think is the highway laid out perfectly in front of you, and you come up empty-handed. Did you just have misfortune as far as hunting at the wrong times, or was it more a function of too many great tags and really not being able to really focus? Whereas if you'd have just had one, you probably would have been able to put all your eggs in one basket. Talk a little bit about when you get too many tags in one year, the way a lot of us apply in all these different states, sometimes that can happen. What advice can you give to someone that maybe finds himself in the same situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really what I had here was a little bit of everything that you just touched on in that question. First and foremost, it's my first tag that came available is the local archery deer in Utah. And again, with some great bucks figured out and patterned, I really should have poured my time into that. I really should have got going. But just a week or 2 after that, or within 2 weeks after that Nevada tag is starting. I want to say it's a week later. And the Nevada elk tag is something that, if you really look at the non-resident statistics on drawing for elk in the state of Nevada, it's probably the hardest state to draw an elk tag in, honestly. When it comes to just pure random percentages, because in the state of Nevada there's never a guarantee. It's a total random state. They do have, your bonus points that they square every year. You get squared points, so that's going to help you out a bunch as you accrue more and more points year after year. But drawing that tag was just such a major thing that I kind of started to lose focus on that local deer tag when I had some exceptional bucks figured out. And I found myself not putting the focus and attention on the deer, and I started thinking about the elk, and I was scouting over there for elk a lot, went over there a little bit early, and here came the season. I was pouring all my time into the elk, and I realized, Nevada's archery elk season starts in the tail end of August. And if you really think about it, August 25th, I want to say, as you know, Jay, that's early compared to what you're used to in Arizona, I'm sure. So really it wasn't peak rut. It wasn't even really what I'd consider to be pre-rut yet. And I was found myself in Nevada pouring my time in over there trying to find some bulls from pre-scouting that, just are moving very little at that point in time. So if I had to do it over again with those two tags, what I would have done is really just stayed focused on the Utah deer and not even bothered with the Nevada elk tag until later. So one thing led to another. I burned up the time that I should have been investing into the deer, chasing the elk there, and the opportunity presented itself on the elk in Nevada. And I got to be honest, it was just one of those real rookie mistakes that I made. It was one of those things where obviously I've had the experience in the field. I knew better. My brother did a great job calling this bull in. It was a bull that we had found during the middle of the season. Big bull. He's a 7x7. Really, really all over that 380 number. He may have gone a little bit higher, maybe a 385 bull. Just I've got video to remind myself and painfully remind myself throughout the year now. But finally had an opportunity. Pat called that bull in. Had one shooting lane he was going to walk through, and I found him entering the shooting lane, and it was only a 38-yard shot. And as the bull entered the shooting lane, I failed to do what we all know to do, which is just make a cow call with your mouth and stop the bull. I didn't stop the bull. I found myself having to take a moving shot when it was just not a smart choice, and I hit a branch and made a clean miss. And it's just one of those things that's always going to haunt me, but I tell you what, I don't think I'll ever, after this year, I won't fail to stop a bull again.
It's situations like that where you learn the hard way that just makes you better. And, I think it's sometimes it's hard to recognize with our own egos and such how, someone as advanced as you are and has as much experience. It's funny though, still I find myself making all kinds of mistakes, and some of them are what I would call rookie mistakes, but I think it's the ability to realize that you made a mistake, and like you said, you probably will not make that mistake again, and it happens to everybody. And I think one of the things that people that are out there listening, and I've got a lot of listeners that are real advanced hunters, and I've got some that are just starting out, and I think the reality is people need to know that it's still hunting, and anything can happen, and you try and minimize your mistakes as best you can, and you try and do everything correctly, but sometimes just stuff's going to happen, and that's just the way it is. I want to bounce back to your bucks, and one thing that's always interesting to me is patterning those velvet bucks, and then towards that end of August time frame. Do those bucks feel the pressure and they just change their habits? Or what makes that? I've got a lot of friends that, they get these bucks all summer long. I mean, they're getting trail camera pictures. They're seeing them like crazy. And then for whatever reason, those bucks either A, disappear, or B, they just change their pattern. And it throws a big wrench into their plan. What were you seeing those bucks doing that you were looking at?
It was interesting because through the summer, and I mean from tail end of June, well in through July into the early part of August, these things were pretty locked in a pattern. I mean, it was like every time I'd go out and glass, I could pretty much count on seeing the same groups of deer. Once in a while you wouldn't see one of them, but I was never concerned because I'd always find them again at maybe the next morning or whatever it was. And I was putting in quite a bit of time just trying to keep tabs on them. Another thing here in Utah, and it's no secret. I mean, a lot of the big bucks you're seeing in Utah that people are killing are. Utah is one of the last states that allows you to, do more than just salt. You can actually put down bait, whether it be an attractant, like a buck jam type of a product, or you can even put down they'll put down apples or peaches or whatever it is just to kind of keep things attracted. Well, to kind of get a better inventory of the bucks in the area, I did have some of that I was putting down, and I was able to get some real solid pictures. But luckily, it was the bucks I was finding were the same ones that I was glassing up. So it wasn't like I was really discovering new stuff and only seeing it with the camera. I was able to glass, and it was in a spot that I could still go out and do a spot and stock later. But I think that to answer your question, I think this year was really interesting. We had awesome antler growth. We had a super mild winter, which everyone knows about last year. And then we followed it up with spring moisture that was just literally off the charts. and the horn growth was great. Now, I don't know if because it was a mild winter, maybe we all got our theories, and I'll just share my theory here, and I'm sure someone's listening out there will probably prove me wrong or think I'm a joker for saying it, but, we come out of a mild winter, and you have all this incredible moisture, the antlers are shed. I think that when you have real mild situations like this, maybe the deer start to grow out early. Maybe they start actually growing their next set of antlers at an earlier date. Maybe it's just a week earlier. Who knows? But my theory is maybe that happened this year because I found bucks that were shedding their velvet this year earlier than I found in years past. So, and it's no secret that when a buck does shed his velvet, that's pretty much, you've got a very, very short window, if any, for that deer to stay in that pattern. And typically, once they go hard-horned, it's pretty much over. It's anybody's guess, especially when you're hunting in areas that have, a lot of pinyon juniper type stuff, or any other thick cover. Those bucks will retreat, and they'll head to that thick cover and become more solitary. They're not going to be running in the big batch that hurts quite as much, and then it becomes tough. And I think the older deer tend to do that more quickly as far as becoming very solitary and hiding. And that's really what I was dealing with. The one buck in particular that I was really, really after is a big giant typical, and once he went hard-horned, it was all bets were off, and it happened very early. And like I said, I was kind of tied up with that elk hunt. It's just one of those learning processes. I wish I would have poured all the time into that first week of that archery hunt because I know I could have got him killed.
Well, I think if you're faced with that opportunity again, I think you'll make a quote unquote better decision this time. And sometimes it takes those heartbreaks to realize to do things differently the next time. Dave, I want to take a quick break here and hear from our sponsors. But before I do that, I was reading GoHunt.com last night, and I noticed that Utah announced 2016 big game hunting rule change, and one of which is hunters who use muzzleloaders or bow will also be able to make some changes to the equipment on their weapons beginning with the 2016 season. Bow hunters will be permitted to attach a range-finding device to the bow, and scopes of any magnification are now allowed on muzzleloaders during the muzzleloader season. I know that those muzzleloader elk and such, one of the gripes has been that I think it was a 1 power scope that they were allowed to use. And tell me what you think about those changes.
I think it can be a double-edged sword. I really do. Obviously the first or the second one you mentioned there with the range-finding device on a bow, that's, you and I both know those rangefinders were so heavy and cumbersome that they used to make that. I think Bushnell had one that came out years ago, and it's like a boat anchor, and those things kind of went out with Nixon. So that's nothing to really consider there. But the other one, the one that does impact things, and I think is going to be a big deal, is that muzzleloader. We're basically now, Utah is basically able to do the same thing that Arizona and New Mexico do, where there really is no limitations whatsoever on your muzzleloader. And that increases the range. I mean, now you start talking, if you're going to get really, really creative and you're really going to, get out there and work your projectile and figure out exactly the sweet load for it and the right powder charge and everything else. I mean, with the right scope on that, you're able to shoot consistently. A 200-yard shot is no longer a real big deal when you're putting a 3-9 scope on your muzzleloader. And I'll tell you what, there's those ultimate muzzleloaders and some of those other, bad bull muzzleloaders, these big long-range guns that are high velocities are pretty much matching almost what a centerfire rifle will do. You can put a turreted scope on those, and you're talking one shot, 500, 700 yards is not a big deal. I know it sounds crazy to think of a primitive weapon that can do it, but those two manufacturers produce some high velocity muzzleloaders that make that capable. So what does that mean for the game? I mean, obviously, as a unit manager, a biologist, they're going to have to start really taking that in consideration when they start talking about their harvest, because harvest is management, and they're going to have to really keep a close eye on what happens this year with the harvest, with this new weapon that people will be carrying. And it's going to have to take a hit out of maybe the allocation on other season choices. Maybe it's going to come out of the rifle allocations. I don't know, but so that's why I say it's a double-edged sword. But I think those that are going to have muzzleloaders, muzzleloader tags now, yeah, high chance of success now in the state of Utah.
Absolutely. I think you're right. Let's take a quick break here to hear from our sponsors. Guys, GoHunt.com Insider is the title sponsor of this podcast. Get everything you need in one spot. Join Insider today. Find and plan your hunts more effectively than ever. Complete state coverage. See detailed information for every unit, every species, every hunt. Interactive maps. Quickly find hunts that meet your exact search criteria and explore them easily. Strategy articles. Learn new things and find hidden opportunities with exclusive articles. Species breakdowns. Top trophy units are hiding in plain sight. Find them with our statistics and historical data. Another great thing about GoHunt.com Insider is they have monthly giveaways that are worth $100,000 plus a year. Each month you will automatically be entered to win gear, tags, and hunts. That is if you're an Insider member. Past prizes include a $22,000 Dall sheep hunt, 3 Red Rock Precision rifles with a $21,000 value, 5 Zeiss Conquest HD binoculars with a $7,500 value. Not to mention, this past July they gave away 4 hunts, an antelope hunt, 2 elk hunts, and a mule deer hunt. Join Insider today and get a $50 KUIU gift card. All you have to do is go to gohunt.com/insider, click on the blue Join Now button, use the promo code JScott at checkout, and GoHunt.com will send you a $50 KUIU gift card. I want to thank GoHunt.com Insider for being the title sponsor of this podcast. All right, Dave, I want to talk to you a little bit about the filtering 2.0 system of GoHunt.com Insider. And, they've just launched the filtering 2.0 with the harvest statistics and being able to compare different units and such, as well as, GoHunt Insider. There's a lot of over-the-counter opportunities, landowner tag opportunities. It's just some exciting times there at GoHunt.com, and you guys are about to launch a very sophisticated draw odds filtering system. What can you tell me about what they've got going on over there?
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, we just right now, as we're recording this, as you and I are talking, Jay, we have the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation banquet has been going on down in Las Vegas. It's a 10-day show. It's the RMEF Elk Camp. And we have a booth down there, GoHunt does, and we're able to share this filtering for the first time with people, face to face, and really walk them through and give them a little bit of a demo, if you will, on exactly what filtering 2.0 is. As you know well, and hopefully a lot of the listeners out there do, GoHunt has tackled the West in a little bit of a different way. We've created what's called a unit profile for every individual unique unit in the West, in every state that we cover. And what that allows you to do is you take it all the way down to the unit level, talking about the species and the access and all the nitty-gritty, and there's some great narrative in there, and it just gives guys a leg up, and it gives you the ability to research like never before. Well, now with the filtering 2.0 that we've added in a couple more ways to use that to actually do your research, and you do it yourself, and it's revolutionary, I think. What you're able to do now is you can go into any given state. Let's just say you go to Arizona, and you just click on the state of Arizona. It's going to come up and it's going to show you every unit within the state of Arizona. Here's the Arizona map right in front of you. It's going to show you every unit. Now you take it one step further. Select your species. And you say, I really want to just know about elk in Arizona. And you click on elk. And now the units that do not offer an elk season in that state, in the state of Arizona, they turn off on the map. The white space, they turn off on those, and just those come forward that have elk seasons available. And then you take it to the next layer, and that's going to be, there's a slide on there where you can slide it all the way over from the lowest setting on trophy quality, all the way, or trophy potential, all the way up to what we have as our highest setting of 380. So you can say, on trophy potential, I'm really looking for one of these Arizona elk units that provides me with an opportunity to harvest a bull of whatever size it is you want. So let's just say you slide it over to 350 inches as a trophy potential. Now, that's not a guarantee that you're going to go find a bull that's 350. And it's not a guarantee that you're certainly going to harvest one that's 350. What we mean by trophy potential is this is a unit that is known to produce 350 bulls year after year, in regularity. So it really gives you, a puncher's chance of being able to do that. So you do that, and then those units that don't have, let's just say you set it on 350, those units that aren't known to produce 350 bulls, those then turn off. So now you have a much more consolidated, smaller group of units to select from, and there's many other ways you can go now. Now at this point, you can say, okay, this is great to know, but you can put in a date range. My only dates I have available next year are October 1st, October 31st, September 1st to October, whatever. You select your date range if you want to, and then it'll layer one step further. It'll actually filter again, saying, of these ones that are still here, the 350 bulls, elk, Arizona, now here are the ones that have seasons that actually meet your criteria of dates. And if you'd like, you can even throw in your weapon type. Maybe you're a muzzleloader hunter. Maybe you're an archery hunter. Maybe you're a rifle hunter. Maybe you don't care and you just want to select all weapons, whatever it may be, but it'll filter out accordingly there as well. And there's one last layer that's available right now today, and that's you can filter also by harvest success. Now, for a guy that's coming in from out of state, maybe for the guy that's really already understanding of certain units, maybe harvest success doesn't mean as much to some, but for a guy that's come a long way and he's selecting between 2 or 3 different units, to be able to look at one that might have, you can move it on over to maybe 40% harvest success or 50% harvest success, whatever it is, and certain units will turn off and others will come on. So you can filter all the way down based on your strict criteria, or your unique criteria, I should say, and find something that fits you perfectly, and then it really narrows those options down. Now, obviously the higher you go in trophy potential, that's going to bring up fewer and fewer choices.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it would be great for people that are hunting states that they're not familiar with, and, say mule deer in Idaho or Wyoming or what have you, and they really don't know which, key units there are. You can very quickly narrow down maybe 4, 5, 6 units that you need to be looking at, and then from there you can research further. So I think it's a great tool. And then it's the big buzz out there. We've got draw odds coming, and what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, draw odds are going to be, we have been very, let's say, selective, maybe very picky about how it is we want to display our draw odds. There's a lot of ways to do it. In some states, let's face it, it's very, very simple. I mean, it's just, we're talking elementary mathematics to be able to calculate a true draw odd. When there's one choice and one choice only for a given state, let's just say they give you one choice and everybody's first choice is considered before it goes on to the next applicant, that's pretty simple to calculate right there. That's not rocket science. But on other states, like Arizona, where they consider 2 choices before they go to the next applicant, or the state of New Mexico, where they're going to consider 3 choices before going to the next applicant, or even the state of Nevada, where it even gets far more broad and confusing, where they consider everybody's 5 choices before they go to the next applicant. So they draw J. Scott, they're going to look at your first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice, and if all those are full, then they'll go, or if they issue a tag either way, then they're going to go to me or draw the next guy, and let's just say it's Dave Loescher, then they're going to start to consider mine. When you're considering more than one draw choice, it's very, very complex as far as how it can mathematically be calculated, and even then, it can never be calculated with exactness, if that makes sense. So it took a little bit for us as far as, did we want to tackle it ourselves the way some maybe others in the industry have, or is this something that we wanted to really reach out and find the proper help? And what we've been doing for quite a while now is we reached out and found basically we'll call it a mathematical scientist, because I think that's the term that's used. It's basically mathematicians and statisticians to help us analyze these draw systems based on the data, and they look at so many different reports to be able to come up with what we feel, and we feel comfortable now. We feel like we truly have what is the most accurate way to represent draw odds across the West and all the states. So, yeah, that's coming out. That's right around the corner. We've actually got we've got it so close to being finished. I just wish it were live right now, but we're going to be able to take that filtering down the road one step further, where you can even filter out hunt choices by, maybe I've got 7 points or 8 points, and you can put that in, or maybe it's 20% draw odds or more of the types of seasons I'm looking for, or maybe it's 10% or 5% odds, whatever it is, you'll be able to use that criteria as well, and that's going to be, I think it's going to be game changing, Jay. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to all come together, and having what you have on there now with the harvest statistics and harvest success, filtering all the way down through the units. It's really special and unique for sure out there, and it's going to be exciting once the draws get up there. Also, now, Dave, touch a little bit on over-the-counter opportunities and landowner tags with GoHunt.com and what role they play. In my mind, they play a pivotal role in the landowner tags across the West. Talk a little bit about that.
You bet. Well, our insider members, we have these insider exclusive articles which you've seen, and these articles are written to really give people information or an edge to get a leg up with something they can really sink their teeth in, good information. We actually have a few articles that are written on different areas in the West that have over-the-counter opportunities. So we want to bring it to their attention. Maybe it's something, and we'll talk, your state right there, I call it yours and my home state, Jay, because I consider Arizona still my home state. Very overlooked is that December and January, or even the early velvet stuff, but the January in particular, the coos deer with a bow. I mean, as you know, you run coos deer hunts very successfully in Sonora, Mexico, and in your success almost all the time comes, I'm sure, in the month of January. You know the behaviors of those coos deer in January. They're just so much more vulnerable. It's the best time to be out there chasing those coos deer, and what very few people realize is that Arizona is definitely a destination that's available in almost all the units, and so many units with a bow over the counter each and every year. Guys can just go do it, and it's something that's kind of overlooked. So that's one of those examples. And then Idaho's mule deer is phenomenal. Idaho's elk and Colorado's elk. There's just so much opportunity. Now back to the filtering we just talked about. One of the criteria, the search criteria in the filtering that you can actually put in is you can say, I'm looking for a unit in the state of Colorado. I know they have archery over-the-counter or even rifle over-the-counter elk opportunities. I want to find a unit that can give me a 320 bull that I can go over-the-counter. You can select over-the-counter rifle. You can select over-the-counter archery. You can select whatever season it is you're looking for. So you can put in over-the-counter 320 bulls, and it's going to show you what few units there are available that would meet that criteria. And then you can do your research from there, trying to make a decision as you read those unit profiles to really get a really good understanding of which unit. Maybe one unit's more physical than another. Maybe you have a bad knee. Maybe there's something that, you have an injury that you're kind of getting over and you don't want to go climb the most extreme stuff. Maybe you don't want to backpack too far. So that's really where comparing between the different units through our unit profiles is going to give you an understanding of which one maybe fits you better and which one would work better on your calendar this year. So that's about the over-the-counter. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity out there that guys are overlooking. Now, with landowner tags, GoHunt is obviously, we've been a big player in the landowner tag market, one of the leading players out there as far as listing landowner tags and making landowner tags available to the hunting public. So, yeah, great resource. GoHunt.com, you can go right on there and click on landowner tags. You can actually use our filtering system. Again, we've added a filtering system in for landowner tags. You can filter by state, by species, even by weapon type, whatever, and you can find landowner tags that fit what type you're looking for. So it's kind of a unique thing. Instead of just finding a shotgun blasted out there list that you have to look through, you can actually filter through it and find something that meets your needs. And landowner tags are, there's a lot of guys that know about them. It's no big secret anymore, but for those that don't, it's a great way to sidestep or circumvent the draw, get around the draw system while you're still building those precious bonus and preference points, because they do not affect your bonus points. If you buy a landowner tag, let's say in the state of Colorado, and you're building deer points, you have 8 points, and you can still apply for a point only this year, or maybe apply for the 100 as you want, but you're not quite there on the point level yet. And then maybe buy a landowner tag in that unit or another unit or something else, but you would not affect those points. You still be able to accrue points while you're getting out in the field and hunting. It's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And, I want to point out to the listeners, obviously GoHunt.com Insider has been the title sponsor of this podcast since the beginning, and very appreciative of the support that I've gotten from Lorenzo and you guys over at GoHunt.com. I will tell the listeners the new listeners that maybe are listening to this episode for the first time, if you want to sign up for GoHunt.com Insider, go to GoHunt.com/insider, click on the blue Join Now button, use the JScott promo code, and GoHunt.com is actually going to send you a $50 KUIU gift card when you use the JScott promo code for signing up. And you'll get to see this resource and the filtering system that Dave has been talking about right here at your fingertips. And with the draw odds soon to be out here within weeks, I think it's, and definitely here before the application season, I'm getting emails all the time with people that are researching different units. Now is the time to sign up and get on that. Get all that information there at your fingertips. So use the JScott promo code. Dave, I wanted to transition a little bit here and talk to you about the changes to the Arizona non-resident tag allocation. I know we've been hearing a lot of things that are in the works, and I know you've been in close communication with the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Tell me what is been finalized and what is happening.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's this has kind of been a long time coming. I mean, it's brought up, as you know, Jay, in all your local, commission meetings and the public meetings where people can voice their opinions, and there's been a big complaint over time in the state of Arizona. When you start talking about not just the premium hunt choices out there, but those ones that would kind of become a once-in-a-lifetime type of thing, like an Arizona strip tag. Arizona strip, Unit 13B, let's just talk about, you take a rifle tag in Arizona 13B, and they may only give out 60 total tags. And if that's the case, out of that, with a 10% limit to non-residents, that leaves 6 non-resident tags. In the old system, the way that we've always done it out of Arizona before, is that they used to what they used to do is they would allocate 20% of the tags, 20% of the total tags would go in the bonus pass draw, which is the first phase of the draw. Now, that first phase of the draw, obviously there's a high percentage of non-resident applicants with the most points, and that bonus pass are going to select exclusively from those first 20% of the tags are going to come out of that highest accrued point category only. So, and when that was the case on those high demand seasons or units like this season in Arizona Strip, the non-resident quota would be filled. That 10% quota of non-residents would be filled in that 20% overall pass. So therefore leaving nothing for random drawing. So you had to have either the most points, you had to be in that highest tier group to be able to have a chance as a non-resident before. Well, that was kind of a little bit demoralizing, and it was kind of a downer for those guys that maybe weren't in that pool, or maybe they were 2 points below, because statistically they would have to live to be about 200 years old to be able to have a chance if you were even 3 points behind on the Arizona Strip. And let's just face it, that's not going to happen. So it kind of was a loss of hope for so many applicants out there. So many avid hunters, really. I talk to them all the time, whether in the field, over the phone, or whatever, over the years, and it's just, and I'm sure you've had those same conversations, it's disheartening for them. So now Arizona's recognized this, and it was a hard decision for them. In September, I believe on the 4th and 5th of September, the commission met, and they approved something to make it better for the non-residents. Now, it's not going to change the total number of tags of non-residents. It's still going to be 10% cap for non-residents for each hunt choice. But instead of allowing all, let's just keep this illustration going I'm using on the Arizona Strip, where there's 6 total tags for that one rifle hunt choice, instead of all 6 of those being able to be drawn out of that bonus pass that we talked about earlier, now they're going to limit 50% of those non-residents for that hunt choice are limited to be drawn out of that bonus pass. So once those first 3 are drawn in this illustration, and then those other 3 non-resident tags that are available for that hunt choice are saved for what's called the random pass, which is the next pass of the draw. And what that does, albeit a small chance, at least there's a chance for 3 guys with anywhere from 0 to whatever point level to be able to draw a tag. And guess what? 3 guys' dreams are going to be made true or come true because of this new system change. Now, this goes across the board, and I'm only using the Arizona Strip as an example. The same thing, Unit 9 elk, Unit 23 elk, Unit 10 elk, all the way across the board. It's going to provide random opportunity for non-residents to be able to get their hands on these tags. Even if it's a small percentage, at least it's a chance. And
Dave, to take that one step further, just so I'm clear, in Unit 9 tags, there's usually 100 tags, so 10% of those, 10 of those tags can go to non-residents. Now what it will be is 5 go to non-residents with the most points for that unit, and then 5 will be completely random draw from 0 up to whatever that max point number is.
Exactly. So the point level, there's still going to be a minimum point level to be able to be competing for those first 5 you just talked about out of the max point. But then the other one's random. There's going to be just a random chance to draw those across the board, and that gives hope. I mean, as you know, you talk to non-residents every year, Jay. You're booking hunters in Unit 9, and you know the excitement, I'm sure, when they call you up and say, I finally did it. I'm ready, Jay. Let's do this. I mean, think about it now. You're going to have guys that those guys were anticipating that you've been talking to. Now you're going to get some guys that maybe only have 6 years under their belt, and they're going to just not know what to do with themselves. I'm sure it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, that is going to be an unbelievable change. I think for the people with max points, obviously they're not happy about it, but that leaves everybody underneath those that have max points that are ecstatic about it because, quite honestly, it gives them a chance and it's a small chance, but at least they have a chance. And, I think for our state, it's going to make applications go up, which means better money for our state. And, even though people say, well, more people will put in and our odds will get worse. Yeah, it will. But the reality is, our Arizona Game and Fish does a pretty darn good job, even though on this podcast I oftentimes get critical of them. I think it's important to note that they do a pretty darn good job, and they need money in order to manage the animals that we all love to hunt.
Oh, you're exactly right. I think Arizona does a phenomenal job of managing their resource, and I think there's some other states that can certainly learn from their example there. And you're right. When you just said it is a double-edged sword with this change that's coming up because those that have been waiting, and let's just say they knew they were 1 or 2 years away now from finally getting to draw, and my heart goes out to those guys. Those applicants, those sportsmen, those hunters have been waiting, and now all of a sudden it may have been 2-3 years away. It could be 5, 6, 7 years away from guarantee, maybe 10 years away from guarantee, and that hurts. So it's one of those situations that's been hard for the Arizona Game and Fish to come to a solution on this, and I think what they've done is just the best overall solution, but it's going to affect some people on both sides. It's going to be too bad in that account, but overall it's going to be good.
Yeah, Dave, I know your time is precious, and I really appreciate you being on the podcast here with me. I want to end by talking about you've got a few hunts here in 2016 that you're eyeballing straight in the face. I know a couple years ago you came down and coos deer hunted with us in January, and I know you've got an opportunity to go back down to Sonora here in January 2016. Tell me a little bit about what you have on your plate so far that you know of coming up for hunts in 16.
Yeah, you bet. I'm going to be going, as you said, I'm going to be going in the tail end of January, early February. I'm going to be hitting the Desert Ranch down in the area around Hermosillo, actually, southeast of Hermosillo. I'm excited. I'm going to be going with a good friend of mine, Jared Cox, from back home. He and I were business partners in the old days, and we grew up as friends. And it's going to be a good time. Also, some other friends of mine here locally in southern Utah are going to be joining. We're going to have a great time down there. And it's just the difference is, Jay, the desert versus I was able to hunt that mountain ranch with you, and it's just so fun. You got the big open slopes and big glassing, and you always have a really, really big, view to look at. In the desert is, you get a lot of that flat stuff, a lot of that rolling flat stuff. Maybe it's going to be sitting a lot more water. You do still have some desert hills where you can do some glassing, but, some of it might have to be glassed off a high rack or a windmill or something along those lines. So it's going to be a little bit of a different thing there. But as you know, also there are some very big coos deer that are living down in the deserts and around Hermosillo. So I'm excited about that opportunity. In addition to that, I've been sitting on the points. I've got the points needed to draw a muzzleloader season in Colorado that I want to do. It's going to be a high country hunt.
For deer?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be for deer
yeah.
in Colorado. I've been able to hunt this unit before, and my brother and I have had some pretty good success in this unit. It's a lot of fun. I think I've got some big deer. And it's obviously going to be one of those things right now. I'm planning on cashing in those points because I'm kind of tired of packing points. I'd kind of rather pack deer. So I'm going to cash these points in, but I'm going to watch closely. We've got quite the winter. It's already starting. I mean, it's cold. We've got snow early. Colorado's experiencing it, but then we're in a mild week this week with another storm coming. I want to make sure we don't suffer any winter kill prior to being able to pull the trigger and apply. So as long as everything goes as planned, yeah, I'm going to head to the high country. I'm going to muzzleloader hunt for deer. If it doesn't, then I'll be headed out probably on the eastern side of the state. Maybe do something a little bit different. Go out there for mule deer or whitetail, similar to how my brother did, and be able to find some success out there. Because those animals out there typically don't winter kill like you do on the western slopes. In addition to that, Jay, I've got points built up across the West in many states. And like I said earlier, I thought this year was the year I was going to draw that archery deer tag in the state of Nevada, because I've got, I don't know what I have, 12 or 13 points, I can't remember. So I'm applying for archery choices over there because I like to hunt that early season. I like to hunt mule deer that are patternable, obviously. And I'm expecting as much as you can expect. I'm hoping to draw this year in Nevada, and that would be a unit that's not too far from me. I'm really close to the Nevada border where I live right here within an hour, so that allows me to kind of get out in Nevada and do some scouting and try to pattern my own buck. So hopefully right now, as I can see it right now, I want to be in Nevada on an archery deer hunt. I'd love to be in Colorado, either high country or on the eastern side, and then Sonora in January. And then, in addition to that, I think that this next year I'm going to be going to either Nebraska after a whitetail, Missouri after a whitetail, or I'd like to go to Idaho, over-the-counter mule deer, utilizing that filtering tool we have. I've been really excited looking for a few options for mule deer in Idaho, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of opportunity there.
That's awesome. Sounds like you've already got great plans for 2016. I can tell you that I have hunted the flats down by Hermosillo for Coues deer. I actually shot my biggest Coues deer personally down there, and I think you're doing right by going at the end of January, beginning of February. It seems as though those deer, the further south you go, the later that they rut. I will tell you that a lot of those ranches, and if I can give you some advice, I would go to the highest cone peaks you can find where you can see 360 degrees and, sit up there as you do. And I know you're a big proponent of big binoculars, and we'll get into that on another episode sometime. But get up there and just glass as much as you can. And it seems as though those deer, like to move. If the rut is on, they'll be moving kind of on and off all day. And, one of the challenges, as with those desert ranches is it's flat, and sometimes you're up high and you can see the deer, but as soon as you drop down in elevation, they become hard to find, but that's why they get big. And, it's an exciting time to be in Mexico. I would encourage anybody out there listening that hasn't been down to Mexico to hunt Coues deer or mule deer. It's an awesome time of year to be down there. A lot of parts of the country are cold and snowy and what have you, and you can go to Sonora and have 15, 20 degrees in the morning and 60 degrees, 65, maybe even 70 degrees during the day, and beautiful weather down there, and the people are great and the food is great, and obviously the deer hunting is fantastic. So great. Sounds like you've got some great plans for 2016. And Dave, I really appreciate you spending time with us here on the podcast. And you're always a great friend of mine personally and of the podcast. I appreciate all your support. And congratulations of all the hard work you've been putting in over at GoHunt.com and working with Lorenzo and the guys over there with the Insider. And it's really exciting to see these different stages of GoHunt.com Insider. And, Lorenzo, I was talking with him the other day on the podcast, and, he was kind of saying, like the Apple, the iPhone 1 and then there's the iPhone 2, and he's like, this is the equivalent of, like us going from the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 6, and so it's pretty cool to see the forward thinking that you guys have got over there, and the electronic platform. I just think it's way more user friendly and exciting to see all the stuff you guys got going on over there.
I appreciate it, Jay. It's always fun to talk to you, and like you said, I feel the same way. Good friends, and let's keep the contact and communication open.
All right, buddy. Sounds good. God bless you, and I'll talk to you down the road, maybe see you at a trade show or something. And if I don't talk to you, shoot a big deer in Sonora, and I can't wait to see the pictures, all right?
All right. Take care, Jay. Thanks.